Today's episode is all about potential cut targets and potential draft targets as Cody now look at the pre-combine mock draft. So don't go nowhere. We're going to have a fun and active Monday.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers to this Monday Madness episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If this is your first time watching or listening to the Locked On Texans podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Also, to all of our returning listeners, thank you for coming back as we continue to talk Texans. On the other side of the screen, y'all see who it is. Well, you know who it's going to be, right, if you're listening. Credential media member for the Houston Texans, Sports Illustrated's own Cody Davis. I'm your Texans football analyst, John, some sports guy Hickman. Today's going to be a fun and active show, right? We're going to look at the pre-combine mock drafts, and we're going to do it live. Typically, we may have done this where we already have it drafted, or maybe other shows, but we want to do it live as if we are actually in our own version of the war room, film room.
And by the way, the only rule, disclaimer, we are drafting as the roster is currently constructed.
Yes.
We're not going to draft based off what they think they're going to do in free agency. It's currently
right now.
Who, if the season started today, this is who we will be drafting. Now, of course, this is why it's called pre-combine, because the combine starts on Tuesday. I'm going to be out there.
It's also pre-free agency.
Yeah, pre-free agency as well. So that's why I wanted, let's just have some fun to do a pre-combine mock draft.
I love it. We're going to have a good time. We're going to do a few of these, actually, but we open up today's show looking at the potential cut targets. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. A lot of potential cut targets out there. And I think the cut targets or cut candidates, right? They're going to be just as important as free agency because there can potentially be some game changers. I was on the establishedrun.com, and you're looking at players like Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Cortland Sutton, Hunter Renfrow, Jeff Wilson, Tyler Conklin. But I think the biggest name for the Houston Texans right now, they've been linked to one another, is Xavier Howard, who has been informed that he will be released by the Miami Dolphins.
And that's why I actually want to pick off from. You just got to take a look at Xavier Howard because first and foremost, John, everybody has been talking about pairing Derek Stingley Jr. with another check-down corner. And you also got to take a look at the fact that a lot of the Houston Texans foundational piece, yes, it's headlined by CJ and Will Anderson Jr. But when you look at Tank, when you look at Stingley, when you look at Christian Harris, I'm even going to throw Jalen Petrie in here. Hopefully he could bounce back and get back to that foundational piece. But when you take a look at a lot of the Houston Texans young guys, they're all on their rookie deals. And the one thing that we keep talking about, this is a golden opportunity for the Texans to build around their foundational pieces while they're still on their first-year contract. Plus, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. And when I saw that news that Xavier was going to get cut from Miami, John, I instantly went back to 2021 during the whole Deshaun Watson trade. That was also the same time where Xavier had his little contract dispute going on with Miami. And remember, the Houston Texans, they were the only way they would be willing to trade Deshaun to Miami, because I think that was during the time where that was like his number one destination, if I'm not mistaken. The only way that they would have been willing to trade Deshaun to Miami was if they had included Xavier in that package. That was 2 years ago. 2 years later, you now have an opportunity to sign one of the top tier corners in this league, at least in my opinion. I do not see a situation where the Texans and Xavier do not get a deal done.
I'm not necessarily a fan of Xavier Howard coming back to Houston. I think his play has taken a dip, right? I think he comes with a lot of on-field baggage. I'm also not necessarily for a lot of home team players coming back to their home. So he's from Houston, right? The story would be great. But I'm not necessarily a fan of him coming back to play for the Houston Texans. There was moments last year, I'm looking at some of his numbers right now, where he was targeted a lot in a lot of those games. He gave up some big plays. One game he gave up 70 yards, and he had good moments. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying his play took a complete step, but if you do look at signing Xavier Howard, then I believe that for one, your backup plan needs to be a for sure thing. He's a one-year deal type of player. There's no need for you to sign him to multiple years. And with Nick Caserio as your general manager, we've seen him do a 1 or 2 year deal. I think he's a 1 year deal if you consider that. I do believe that he's going to be inexpensive for Houston. I do believe that you still address the cornerback in the draft. And I also do believe you re-signed Steven Nelson, because with his decline in play, and you can see some of these injuries, like, okay, he had the foot injury last year, I believe. How long is that going to be a lingering problem for him? Overall, I think that Houston could just possibly get better for the team in a different direction. But I also like Derek Stingley coming out on Twitter, on social media, and saying, as soon as the news broke, he tweeted 24 and 21, right? And you also had John Bernard's tweet, which he deleted, but I didn't think he needed to delete it, because that is true. Regardless of how you feel about Steven Nelson, who played through injury last year, and some of his worst moments was when he was playing through injury. Cody, you can attest, being in that locker room with those guys every day. Steven Nelson had some very good moments for Houston last year. And then by no means am I advocating for Houston to just say, well, we got Steven Nelson, we can run it back with that. Not at all. By no means am I saying that we can go sign Xavier Howard and that's enough. Not at all. That cornerback room desperately needs an upgrade. But when you look at Xavier Howard, you really have to look at a few different things. Will that foot injury be a lingering issue? If so, what does his future with the Houston Texans, if there's an idea, and it seems like there is, what does his future with the Houston Texans actually look like? How long is his future with this team? At what cost? And if we bring him in, do we look at bringing back Steven Nelson and still, maybe not even with the 23 overall pick, but between 23, 59, and 86, at what point in the draft do we say we need to bring in another young guy? That's the reality of Xavier Howard. He is not a guy that you bring in and he solves all your problems at cornerback. As a matter of fact, I think if you bring him in, you still may have problems, because now you look at a situation where, how can we count on you? How much can we count on you? Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and go ahead and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Monday installment of Locked On Texans. And John and I, we're about to do our pre-combine mock draft. Now, I understand that in the first segment I said we're not going to do any trades or nothing. But John hit me with what you afraid of. If you think you the black Nick Caserio, you got to be willing to do the trade. So I say, you know what? Let's do the trades. We're about to start our pre-combine mock draft. Go ahead, John.
Only if it makes sense.
Only with the way the roster is currently constructed. Do I gotta say it again? Only if the roster is currently constructed. So,
right.
Without further ado, you know what time it is.
Let's draft option on the Pro Football Network. Now, with the number 23 overall pick, Cody, does this make sense? We give up 23. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to give us 49, 80 in the 2025 second round pick, but that doesn't matter right now. 49 and 80.
I'm not taking it.
You're not taking that?
Nah, I'm not.
Let's reject it. With the number 23 overall pick, I think for the Houston Texans, they need a couple of things. I've been an advocate and adamant on taking a cornerback with the number 23 overall pick. However, we do have to recognize that Sheldon Rankins is a free agent, and he did impact the Houston Texans interior up front. Did a very good job, I think, especially in the second half of the season. But they desperately need to kind of bring in another young buck at that D tackle position, right? Fill that void. And so for Houston right now, you have Newton, the D tackle out of Illinois, the 6'2", 290-pounder. He is a freak of an athlete. He kind of puts me in the mind a little bit of what Kalijah Kancey was for the for last year. You have Newton, you have Byron Murphy, you have Kool-Aid McKinstry, you have Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver, is available as well. I want you guys to tell us what you would do at number 23 overall pick in the comment section. But are we going offense or are we going defense?
Going defense for sure.
This
is the Miko we talking about.
This is the Miko we're talking about. You got your quarterback in play. You're not necessarily clamoring for a quarterback or offensive weapon right now, right? You got that taken care of. Do you go with the D tackle, Newton out of Illinois, Byron Murphy out of Texas, Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama?
Me and Coach D'Amico Rhymes. Look, John, both of us are bald-headed. So I'm going to stick with my bald-head brother. I know he loves his defensive lineman. So if you're okay with it, let's go with Byron Murphy II from Texas.
Murphy is off the board. Now, mind you, Newton is available. He is the highest rated D tackle. We're going with Murphy.
We're going with Murphy.
6'1", 308, big guy, athletic, can do a very good job of stopping the run. And I love his movement. I love Murphy. So Murphy it is. He is a Houston Texan. Now, we are waiting for the next pick to come up. The LA Rams come calling. They want to give us the pick 83 and the 99th overall pick for 59. Are we taking it or not?
59.
We give up 59. We get 83 and we get 99. So that puts us at 83, 86, and 99.
Knowing Nick Caserio,
we taking it.
I think he'll take it. I think Caserio will take that.
That's a no-brainer.
By the way, I'm doing this based off the foundation has been set. The last 2 years, I'll be like, no. But this year, let's take it.
Now, Green Bay is also calling. We give up pick 83 and 236, and we get pick 88 and 127. So that would put the Houston Texans at 88, 86, 99, 124, and 127. And I also believe 128. I would take that deal.
Let's roll with it.
All right. So now we're going to reject those. Now we look at what are the needs for the Houston Texans right now. On the defensive side of the ball, you got Max Melton out of Rutgers, the cornerback, Josh Newton, the cornerback out of TCU, Johnny Dixon is available out of Penn State. Are you going? Because our first pick was Murphy. This is also a team that needs some offensive help.
On offense, I would say, is Jonathan available from the running back?
He's not available. He's been gone for a while now.
I kind of figured. I thought we was going to get lucky. All right, so in that case, let's stay on the defensive side of the ball. Let's address that corner, man. What corner you think we should take?
think we might as well go with the highest rated corner available right now, Max Melton, out of Rutgers, 6-foot corner, nearly 200 pounds, physical guy. He's not the top corner, which is why you could have got away with maybe drafting Kool-Aid in that first round. But I will say, let's go ahead and take Melton.
I like that. I like Melton, and I know I've been agreeing with you saying that I would love to see the Texans pair Derek Stingley Jr. with another lockdown corner. I think Melton can actually develop into that. However, John, I would much prefer the Texans go this route and draft a corner, so that way you know that you'll have your corner 1, corner 2 locked down for the next 3 to 4 years. Unlike in the first segment, how we talked about whether or not you bring in Xavier Howard, and within the next year or two, depending on if it doesn't work out, then you'll be back in this situation. I like that. I hope that's what the Texans do.
With Max Melton, you gotta look. He's a guy that went up against Michigan, went up against Penn State, went up against Iowa, Ohio State. He's played some very good talent coming out of Rutgers. Only allowed 3 TDs this year, did have 3 interceptions to go along with it. And he got better each year in college. In 2021, passer rating allowed 92. 2022, 84. This year, a 20-point decline. When we look at 65.7 passer rating allowed on 44 targets, allowed 24 for only 252 yards. And again, got better the previous 2 years, 332, 394, right? So he's gotten better, played in all 12 games the last 2 years, played in a combined of 34 games in his 3 seasons in college. So health-wise, you like that. 5 forced incompletions, didn't have any drop interceptions. So if he gets his hands on the ball, he's bringing it down. Did have 12 missed tackles, so got to improve in that area. But he is an outside corner. It ain't going to be no inside-outside flopping around. This is a good pick for the Houston Texans. He can pair well on the opposite side of Derek Stingley. So you like that. Now we sit at pick 88. We've went defense with the first 2 picks. Now I think personally this is a perfect time for the Houston Texans to address a position with, if you look at how this roster is currently put together, oh, guys, they need to address this position. Devin Singletary is a free agent. Dameon Pierce is your only running back on the roster that you have seen do anything productive and positive in the NFL. I'm going with Blake Corum out of Michigan.
Let's do it. Why not? At first, I would say let's address the wide receiver unit. However, John, as the way the roster is currently constructed, I think running back is definitely more of a need up until this point than wide receiver. But with our next pick, which is what, pick 99?
99.
So with pick 99, will we go tight end or wide receiver at this point?
I'm going to invest into the wide receiver position.
Over tight end?
Right now, absolutely. Simply because you can find a tight end, an impactful tight end. The next pick is at 124. There's 124, 127, and 128.
Okay. All right.
Tight end is in that batch. But I like Malik Washington out of Virginia. He is a true slot cornerback, and he's productive from that position. Wide receiver. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's a true slot wide receiver. He's a productive wide receiver out of Virginia. And what I like about that young man is he can just go out there and flat out get it done, right? I'm looking at some of his numbers right now. His last year at Virginia, over 1,300 yards, nearly 1,400 yards, 1,384. Last year, 701, right? 111 catches this past season, 138 on targets. Lined up at 31 times at the wideout position, but he, again, a true slot receiver, 406 snaps in the slot, 9 TDs. He's a guy that can come in and just flat out get it done. Played against Tennessee, played against North Carolina, Miami, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Duke, the whole ACC. They got some good talent up in there. Guys, this man would fit perfectly into what this team needs. Why? You don't have to look at moving Tank Dell on the inside. I hate that narrative. He is an outside receiver.
Yeah,
Let
he
him
proved me
stay
wrong
where
about
he is.
that.
Yeah, he proved a lot of people wrong. Do you want to look at maybe moving him in and out and being interchangeable? Yes. So if you want to do that, that's a perfect guy to match him with to be interchangeable. We know Nico's going to be on the outside primarily of his snaps, but I like Malik Washington out of Virginia. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It can be easy to ignore our social battery and spread ourselves thin, especially with social gatherings picking up after the wintertime. Everybody wants to see you. Everybody wants to see how you've been. What's the right amount of socializing for you? How do you recharge? Maybe you thrive around people, or maybe you need some more alone time. Therapy can give you that self-awareness to build a social life that doesn't drain your battery. If you're thinking of starting therapy, I think giving BetterHelp a try is a good way to go. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your social sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/locked on today to get started. You can get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked on. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. We are now in the second part of our mock draft that we are doing currently. We're not, this is not a live show, but we're currently doing this live as we're going along with the show. And now we sit at pick 124.
124.
The Houston Texans. And right now, our picks, Byron Murphy II with the number 23 overall pick, made a couple of trades. So we moved from 59 down to 86. We drafted Max Melton out of Rutgers, Blake Corum at 88, Malik Washington at 99, and now we sit at 124. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for the Houston Texans to go ahead and draft a tight end.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Theo Johnson out of Penn State is available. Dallin Hoker out of Colorado State is available. That's a guy I really like. I really like what he can bring to a team. I really think Hoker is a guy that does very good running after the catch. He has great hands. He may have the best hands of the tight end group in this draft. Honestly, really do believe that. Is he an all-out blocker? No, but he's not bad. He is a willing blocker. He'll get in there with you. But I think we're going tight end. We're going Theo Johnson out of Penn State, who interviewed with the Houston Texans at the Senior Bowl, or we're going with Dallin Hoker out of Colorado State.
My only concern when you look at Dallas out of Colorado State, John, do you think he would be on a similar trajectory as Brevin Jordan? Because the description that you just gave was a little bit similar to Brevin Jordan. However, Brevin Jordan was a worse blocker at this time. But I just don't want to see the Texans put themselves in a position where 2-3 years down the line and we're still talking, hey, he got to improve in blocking. He got to improve in blocking. Do you think he would be on that trajectory as Brevin Jordan? Because if not, I'm all for it.
Hoker does a very good job of finding and exploiting zones of the defense. We've talked about that. But I think that he is. I think Brevin Jordan, just really quick, I don't think Brevin Jordan got a fair shake when he came to the league. He had a bad quarterback play, didn't have a good offensive coordinator. And one of the things that we've wanted to see out of Brevin Jordan since he got into the league was just, giving him an opportunity to like line up in the slot or line up, like kind of utilize him really as a receiver. Here's one thing that I really do like about him. There's no limitations with his route tree. He can run almost every route that you want for a tight end. But I think when you look at Theo Johnson out of Penn State, he is a more sound tight end. He got very good feet, by the way, very good feet. But he can impact the game, line on the inside as a blocker. He can go out there and make some catches. So I think when you look at this point, you got to go best available with that group, and that would be Theo Johnson.
Let's do it.
Now we said at 127.
All right, 127. John, do you think, and look, let me go ahead and say this, man. I know we're looking a lot about, as the roster currently constructed. The season started Friday. Your starting safeties will be Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie, two guys who were disappointing throughout the whole entire 2023 season. We understand that the Houston Texans, I believe they ranked 26 in pass defense, and majority of those issues came with that safety unit. Do you think 127 is the perfect opportunity to draft a safety to where, yeah, you can get him and bring him in for depth purposes behind those two guys without a shadow of a doubt, but if those two guys continue on this downward trajectory, you have a prospect who can step in and fill the void that I sell you on a safety at 127.
The thing about 127 and 128 is they're back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going safety. Yeah.
Okay.
You got Malik Mustafa. That's a guy that John Crumpler has raved about. You got Tyreek Smith out of Georgia, right? I think those are the top two options. I think in this case, I think now when you look at this group, you really need to find somebody that you know and can trust can play deep for you. Malik plays a lot of his snaps in the box. I mean, in 2022, he only was featured in 63 snaps playing deep. This past year in 2023, this past season, 163, but he also increased his numbers and snaps altogether. And so now you look at 327 snaps in the box. You got Jalen Petrie for that. Now, there's another guy, Katan Ola Dapo, that I did not mention. I mentioned Tyreek Smith, mentioned Malik Mustafa. He's probably the more versatile option, right? 2022, 285 snaps deep, 309 and 21 this past year, 174. And with college, you definitely need a versatile safety that can pretty much line up in the slot, line up back, back deep, line up in the box, do a little bit at all. But he's probably the guy that I think would benefit, what Houston would benefit the most from, because of he's going to play deep. 13 games all 3 years in college. Not necessarily a missed tackle guy. A passer rating of 61.3 allowed. Only one TD allowed this past year compared to 2 interceptions, right? So he's good deep. I'm going with the young kid out of Oregon State Beaver, by the way, at safety with the number 27 overall pick. Now, again, we are back on the board with the number 28 overall pick, and that's great for Houston. Now, Houston, we have addressed the D tackle position, the corner position, the running back position, the wide receiver position, the tight end position, and the safety position. What we have not done was address the linebacker position.
Well, hold on. Before we do the linebacker, I'm using my D'Amico Ryans cap. Do you think he would try to draft the edge at this point? Because I don't see the Texans leaving this draft without at least 2 defensive linemen.
Right. I wanted to ask about, do they draft another D tackle? Again, if we look at Sheldon Rankins, 6'2", 305. Malik Collins, 6'2", 316, right? And we got to mention Malik Collins because this is his last year of his deal. But we still have to be ready and be able to bring in somebody that can learn and get acclimated and potentially be your next starter. But you see that 305, 316, that 300, that big body, 6'5". Looking at the young man, 316. Mason Smith still on the board.
Take it. Gotta take it.
I'm taking Mason Smith with the number 128th overall pick. Our next 2 picks are 222. Now, this is where you kind of start getting into some of those players that, the 7th round. What do you do?
At 222, I would say, what you think would be more realistic? We D'Amico, we Nick Caserio. We addressed about every need. I think there's 2 positions we haven't touched yet: offensive line and linebacker.
Also,
Do we go?
Also, Fairbairn is a free agent.
Okay.
Just
So
throwing it out
okay.
there.
So
Just keep that in mind.
if we go kicker for the last pick at
We
pick
had
22.
222. We also have 245.
Okay, so if we go kicker 245 just for fun, what would you deem more important at 222? An offensive lineman or a linebacker?
I would say linebacker.
Okay, all right, cool. Let's
And
go
honestly,
linebacker.
guys, we probably should have drafted a linebacker earlier in the draft.
That's why I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the safety unit? Because I feel if the season started on Friday, I have more confidence in this linebacker group than I do the safety unit.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. So, and I'm not necessarily mad at it, but I think you go linebacker. You look at Omar Spates out of LSU, SEC guy, LSU guy. 300 total tackles in his career at Oregon State before transferring over to LSU. 6'1", 237. You know, can come in and potentially be very impactful for your special teams. This is a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Right. Good burst. Does a very good job in short area opportunities and dropping back in coverage as a defender. So I'm going Omar Spates. He probably should have been off the board. And now with the number 245 overall pick, I'm going special teams. I'm going kicker. I'm going Joshua Cardi out of Stanford.
There we go.
Now we lead the draft with Byron Murphy II, Max Melton, Blake Corum by trade, Malik Washington by trade, Theo Johnson, Katan Oladapo by trade, the safety out of Oregon State, Mason Smith at 128, Omar Spates, and Joshua Cardi. Cody will be out in Indianapolis this week at the NFL Combine. So you guys make sure that you stay tuned for some draft coverage this week. I'm Johnson Sports Guy Hickman. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Follow the Locked On Texans Twitter page on Twitter as well at Locked On Texans. Give me a follow at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.